Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody around the world, the trading community. Welcome to another Monday live opening session with, of course, FX Evolution and everybody out there. I hope you all had a great weekend. I know I did. We're free in Melbourne, it seems, eventually. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm from Melbourne, and I think we've been through the worst lockdown possibly in the world. So congratulations to everyone out there, and I'm assuming there's a few people from Melbourne in the chat right now, so I hope you're all pretty happy. I know I am. Anyway, let's talk about markets. Markets. A lot going on this week. Of course, we've got a bunch of the most important news out there being earnings season. Quick shout out to everybody before we get stuck into that. We've got so many people here. Hello, Stuart. Hello, Shane. Hello, Sandro. Tony, great to have you here. Seems like you're staying up pretty late. Thank you very much. Dave G, good to see you. Usin Vision, as always. Liam, Dr. Horton, Pavel, Sandollar77, thank you very much. Oh, he's also given me $4. Thank you very much, Sandollar, for the coffees. Always appreciated, mate. US $4. Even better than, of course, any Australian money out there. Thank you very much. Siddharth, good to see you here. Phil Nell, etc. I won't keep calling everyone out, but thank you to each and every one of you. All right, so this week, what are we talking about? Well, of course, we've got earnings. We've got the dreaded US election. It'll eventually be over, and we can go back to being technical analysts, but that election is going to be next week. We will be doing a special multi-hour kind of stream for that, so definitely if you haven't subscribed and you're a first-time viewer here, consider doing that, and that'll be a great event, I think. It'll be very, very fun. So this week, what have we already seen? Well, we've seen Sap announce, and Sap's probably the story of the day so far in terms of not doing as well as expected. It's launched really Salesforce down as well. If you looked, Salesforce is down in the pre-market, which we'll be taking a look at the Webull pre-market very, very soon. Hasbro has also done an announcement. I think this might be wrong. I think Alphabet's actually later on this week. But overall, Thursday is the day we need to watch. Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Blizzard Activision, one of our favorites. Spotify, everything's going. Shopify, another very, very popular one with the community out there. Lots of things going on Thursday. A few people have been talking about eBay as well. And AMD and Microsoft after the close Tuesday. Let's have a quick look at AMD just for a moment here. So I was reading some comments before, but we've got here... Get rid of that. We've got here AMD stock price target raised a day before earnings report. So people are pretty bullish on AMD. Obviously, a few new announcements coming out from AMD. New graphics card, new CPUs. They're well ahead of Intel. And guess what? Intel did not have a good earnings season. Intel, wow, is it going the way of IBM? I'm not sure. But overall, it's interesting to see how much bullish momentum there is towards AMD. Let's take a look at the futures here. Overall futures down almost 1% coming into the market open. This is bearish, guys. This is not what we're used to seeing. We're used to seeing generally a market that is bullish into the open and then continues to be bullish and then sold off by evil Wall Street at the end of the day. So this is quite a lot different. Hello, Mr. Computer Guy. Good to have you here. This is the bit that I think makes everything different. We've got a down market into the open. First time in a little while. Now, we know that what happens in the futures and what happens in the real market is a big difference. But this is earnings week. So somebody said in the community, in the comment section, that every single week before Apple, before Google, before any of those kind of big announcements and earnings reports come out, it's actually been a negative run up to it. Now, I haven't verified those stats exactly. Someone in the community might be able to verify those. But it's interesting to know that we have negative correlation with the week of the announcements, at least into the announcement themselves. Probably people de-risking. There's a lot of uncertainty about whether they're really worth what they're fundamentally getting praised for right now in terms of the tech stocks. That'll be very interesting to have a look at. Few questions here. AMD is definitely promoted more than Intel from the suppliers I go to, says Stuart. Yes, AMD are really on top right now. Sandollar says it was mentioned that it only happened 3 times in the past when Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Google released in earnings simultaneously in the week. So what's that to do with Sandollar? Tell us. I'll definitely share that with the community. Siddharth says Intel run by bureaucrats instead of engineers and scientists. Well, I think Intel definitely need to look at their marketing anyway. So let's take a look at Webull, have a quick look at this pre-market 20 billion and plus kind of pre-market opens here. Let's go to the negatives first. So we've got the 20 billion plus kind of level on here. We've got a few things coming in. Dr. Pepper is not doing so well over here, but Salesforce was probably one of the ones I noted. Tesla down 1.77 as well. That announcement where they came out with the earnings didn't really shock me, but for a long time they've been mostly making their profits off, of course, a carbon emission offset kind of concept, and that was not really helping it. It bounced to about 430 something, and then it's bounced back down to 400. So we're taking a look at the technicals on that one very, very soon. So again, I think Salesforce probably the story. Apple also down 1.15% to a 115 handle. If we keep scrolling through them, just generally most things down. Now, thanks to TradingView, actually, I contacted them and reached out. I had the pro version, but they've given me the premium version because we have a bit of a following here on the channel. And that allows me to get a bit more access to this stuff. So I guess a shout out to them. I'm not sponsored by them, but shout out to them for helping out in terms of hooking us up with the premium version, which allows us to do these types of screeners. And I've got a question to you, the community. Do you prefer that we do black screen like this, where we have a black background, or white when it comes to streaming, when it comes to showing you all of the levels? So this is basically a little screener I set up just with US 100, obviously S&P 500, US 30, so the Dow. Then we've got gold, dollar index, and I put Tesla or whatever share we're looking at or stock we're looking at in the bottom right. So let me know whether you like the black background or you prefer generally a white background. Seems to be most people like white. So let's go back over there to the light version. You prefer that one? Dr. Horton says TradingView thumbs up. Yeah, wasn't too hard. I'm sure I probably should have done it a while ago. They were actually really cool. They just said, yeah, here you go. So that's good. Kyle says, hi again. I've been buying Bitcoin since last month. Will you be happy, Kyle? It's been up pretty well. Good technicals there in the buy zones as well. We've talked about them such a lot. Liam says, Tesla at 420, such a meme. I assume that's something I'm probably not. I'm in the dark on that one a little bit, Liam, but I'm sure there's some great memes about it. All right, this is pretty funny. All right, seems like white one. I see a bit of a mixture. We'll go to a poll maybe one day with the community overall. Hey Gareth, good to see you. So let's talk about the indices coming in. Let's go back over to the futures chart. So we've got here 1% down S&P, Nasdaq down about 0.76, Dow down 1, crude oils down 2.2. Really, this is probably the thing that we're looking at right now. Now, we know that while I'm in Melbourne and we're coming out of a shutdown, Europe possibly going into more shutdowns and sections, the US hitting all-time spikes. We don't talk about it very much, but it's because it hits crude. We need to talk about that action. Like if we have a lack of demand because people are indoors a little bit more, then crude gets hit. That puts pressure on, of course, that sector. And it's really been the beaten down sector. So we saw Exxon hit some amazing lows just only a few weeks ago. Are we about to go back down and test those lows, maybe even test $30 for the stock? We'll have to have a think about that one. US dollar as well is something I want to focus on tonight, along with the VIX put call ratios and everything leading up to the election. There's some interesting things that we're seeing with the VIX. So let's just quickly go over and pick up the VIX first and talk about this. We'll use the CBOE contract and just talk about this channel that we've been seeing. Now, the channel's between 25 and 30. We know that it's between those two zones. I'll put a horizontal line for anyone that doesn't see it, but basically we've got the VIX channeling between these two zones. And also, just as a reminder, if you have stocks that you want us to look at or indices, please do post them in the room. If they're big ones, we'll definitely take a look at them throughout the stream. So VIX in the middle. Now, generally you would expect VIX to spike into the election itself. There is going to be volatility on the day, and it's looking like it's going to be relatively tight because there's some ways that you can look at it each way. If you look at social media engagement versus polls versus all those things, I don't want to get political, but it could be closer than maybe we think. We don't know. Either way, there's going to be volatility. And when we get volatility, generally the VIX or fear index spikes. And we're right in the middle of the zone right now. We're testing the 200 simple moving average on the 4 hour, the 50 exponential moving average, and we're finding some buying pressure there in terms of the VIX is spiking a little bit. So I still maintain this channel is the most important thing to be looking at probably on the market right now. We've got a lot of counter kind of things. We've got copper. Dr. Copper's doing so well, and it's telling us everything's great in the markets. And then we've got VIX in the middle, not really telling us too much, but a break of either side will be a significant break indeed. And I think the VIX could certainly spike back up to 30 at any point throughout this week. Jazz says ASX 200 futures. We'll definitely take a look at that, Jazz. Yep, I will be looking at the ASX 200. All right, so VIX stuck between the zone overall. Then we also have, I think it was PCC is the put call ratio code if you're using TradingView. What you want to do is if you're using put call ratios, always go line, and then that will just clean it up a little bit more for you. So we saw a little bit of a decline of puts to call ratio. As you would know, I use this more as a contrarian kind of aspect. If I get a 0.6 reading and I'm seeing like a really high euphoric stage of the market, then I usually like to actually put on short spreads, consider that kind of action maybe before the market even moves. And I do that especially at key critical resistance zones. But when it's up like here, it's really in the middle of nowhere's land. It could go well up and puts could come back into the market like they did, of course, during some times in September. And it could go all the way back down and euphoric kind of call buying happens as well. But from what we're seeing on the futures themselves, really the market looks like it wants to go bearish pre-market here. If we go to the 15-minute chart, take a look at this 20 exponential moving average. Multiple resistance touches. This is already a 1, 2, and we know, what does that mean? The third one is generally going to be respected. So that's 3 20 exponential touches on the way down on the S&P 500. Pretty significant. The 1, 2 is always the key thing here, guys. If we're looking at markets in the future and you're thinking, well, how do I use the moving average effectively? The easiest way to do it is find where the market is respected the first time, the second time, and generally the third time becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a very good entry point. And that can go for any time frame. If you're on a 5-minute, you're on a 15-minute, you're on a 1 hour, you're on a daily, it doesn't matter. That's the way I always look at it. If it happened twice before, the third time becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you also always trade in the direction of that trend, which is excellent. Will it open below 3,400, Yusin Vision says. He must have some shorts on the market. He says he hopes so. Well, I'm not sure if it will open below that level, but we know that 34.20, 34.30 has been an incredibly strong buying zone. We called that as a community so long ago. We basically have talked about this to death on the channel. I feel like I've been talking about the same zone now for 3 weeks, but that's because it's the critical zone. The market was unable to make a new high above that 34.80 and continue on, and it's now putting pressure on the downside. And I think when we look at the Nasdaq, it's really the clear leader right now of early kind of resistance support breaks. The Nasdaq has been the market that's sitting in the 200-point ranges. We've talked about this again many, many times, and I really stick to this kind of concept. The 200 points are just acting as great support, great resistance, and sometimes that is a thing. Psychological numbers are really, really key in the markets. And right now, like never before, there is more of us, the retail trader, in the market. And when there's more of us, the market usually trades like we do. We trade in psychological numbers. It stops just before, goes slightly through, takes out stop losses. All of those kind of things are in play. We've talked about how hammers and shooting stars suck right now because they're often fake signals. They don't have flow-on effect. Look at this. Look how bad this is. It looks like a rejection. It makes a 0.5 point kind of high and then rejects it. It just shows you right now, this is the trap. Do not trust this candle without continued momentum. I'm kind of hating on Wall Street right now, but, you know, if you call me a conspiracist, it's possible. But realistically, it's more just, I think this has been a serious target of the algorithms. It just seems too clean. I've never seen it such a fail candle. I think it's negative. Usually it's a 53% win rate. I think it's negative right now. We will take a look at Apple in just a few minutes. Okay, so we'll go over and answer a few more questions here in the community. Remember, just ask any question you've got. We'll answer it as much as we can. Not sure if I'm going to say your name right here. Yere Martin says, yes, I'm in Spain already. Some shut down and they want to do it for 6 months. Oh, terrible. I've just gone through 3 or 4 months or whatever it was. Not great. ASX 200 futures. Yep, we'll be doing that. Can we look at TSX, says Philip? Remind me a little bit later. What's the ticker for PCC? So I just know PCC in TradingView. It's different on different platforms. So that's for the put-call ratio. If anyone can help some people in there, I think he's using TC2000, it looks like. Siddharth wants the market to go to 32.20. One more time, please, he says. Is Apple poised for another entry point? So here's the thought with Apple really. Apple had the announcement. They really didn't hit my expectations. I expect Apple to have more quality. Is in the iPhone 12, it's good. I got one right here. I got it today. It's all right. You know, it's OLED. It's basically behind the times, should have some more hertz and all of those types of things. But overall, even though I buy it because I used to work there a very, very long time ago, I don't think they really hit the expectations of what people want. They need a new Apple TV. They need new products, and they really need to be pushing that. Now, that is partly due to why it's getting off. It's also people just taking profit. It's had a great move. So I think with Apple, really look to the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq is going to be a lead there. If it gets through today and closes below 11.6, where does that signal? 200 points down to the 11.4, and then possibly even this 11.2 support. Now, if we get to those levels, is Apple going to be 115? It's probably more likely to be 110 or lower. So I'm looking personally at the Nasdaq, as I always do whenever I buy stocks. I always look at the index itself for support resistance levels, and then I buy the corresponding stocks at those times. I haven't covered Tesla yet, no. So let's just quickly do this for the Australian audience, because I am aware of how late it is already, and I do appreciate all of the Australians coming out and watching the stream. Have a quick look at the ASX 200. So the ASX 200's had a full injection by the government. The federal government came out and had their budget. Basically, their budget pushed the market straight back up. And you can see here this slight fake break here. Now, on markets, when you're looking at really great breaks, you do want to generally see a weekly close above. And the weekly did bullish close here. And I've got to tell you, I'm relatively bullish on the Australian stock market. I am relatively bullish here. I do expect, however, that the Australian stock market will move with the American stock market, as it always does. So while mid caps and small caps got a lot of funding, that's the problem. We've hit the 62, we got a little bit through it, we got up to a 62.53 handle here, and now we're pulling back. Now, it probably makes sense for us to pull back possibly even to 6,000 and hit this weekly kind of 20. Does the weekly 20 matter? No. But to come back to 6,000 as we move down possibly in the US 500. If the US 500 and Nasdaq break low today, I would expect this market to get a little bit weaker. If we take a look at the monthly right now is looking quite strong. Now we know, look at this. Look at these rejection candles. These rejection candles over here. Wick rejection, wick rejection, wick rejection. Does that remind anyone of that Bitcoin but inverse a little while ago? This level is so key to the market. We close above here on a significant time frame like a monthly. Big moves. Possibly 6,600 very quickly. 64, 6,600. It ignites all of the buys. But right now, there's a lot of weak rejections here. And we're actually selling off a little bit into the close of the month. And we obviously have US election right here, 3rd, 4th for Australians. So this election at the end of the month, we might see some risk off here and another wick down. But just always note this importance here. 6,200 and whatever you're looking at, whether it's an S&P, whether it's something else, these 3 wicks show strong bearish momentum off that. A body close above, that is the signal. Doesn't matter if it's a 5-minute, whatever time frame, it takes out stop losses. It's a complete change and shift in sentiment. Hopefully that makes some sense. Dr. Horton says, iPhone 12 only increased the hertz to your wallet. Yeah, it certainly did, Doctor. So yeah, that's my thoughts here on the ASX 200. Lots, I'm looking at the monthly. And why am I doing that? Because I saw all those rejections. That's really the way that I look at things. Let's take a quick look at Hasbro here. So Hasbro had, actually I want to use this one and we'll go to the light color. Now I did see a really good comment before from somebody that was mentioning that we should be using black screens for eyes. And I do agree with that. Now, there are screens that help you, but as a trader, this is a bit of advice from someone that's looked at way too much screens. I often use a program called Flux, which you can download for free, actually. And Flux turns your screen orange. So what it does, it gets rid of the blue light. And it's free. It's totally free. You can use it for any reason you feel like. But Flux is a good offset if you don't want to buy those special screens. And it does reduce it. Now, you will have an orange-looking screen, but it's on a timer and it sets it all up. It's quite nice. So definitely consider doing that if you get sore eyes on the screen. Possibly Flux might be an answer. So we're pre-market 89.44 here on Hasbro. The announcement actually I think was slight beat, but again, it's just not beating enough. And we've got down here 2.78 negative 89.44. Just interesting to see that it actually broke pre-market, pre the announcement. So if you notice here, 23rd, we had a big bullish move and then it's come back down, right back down to this level. So it actually broke pre-news and that's weird. That's not normal. Doesn't usually do that. Usually we see it testing the resistance, not breaking it. That is a nice range though down here. This 82, if it gets back down and gets kind of a little bit, I probably think 85 it's going to find some support, but there is a very nice accumulation base here, and a clear buy for me every time would be when it got through this zone over here. All the moving averages were above all the moving averages, including the 200. Above the 200 is a buy zone for a lot of people on Wall Street. They use one thing. It's just like 200 simple moving average, above, below, they buy it. So when it got through here and it got through all of this beautiful kind of accumulation, that was actually quite a strong little buy zone there for Hasbro. And it's happening on some bad stocks in the market. All right, so let's have a look at some of the other things coming into the pre-market as well. We'll go back over the indices, but yeah, I think that's an interesting one there with Hasbro. Tesla, let's take a look at Tesla. So we'll load up these moving averages fixed here. Don't want that just 20 and that's it. Leave that alone. One sec, we'll use this one. Tesla. And we've mentioned this a few times. The 400 should be heavy buying support for Tesla. Now, why is that? 50 exponential. We'd mentioned it before. 1, 2, 3. So it's the third touch of the important moving average if it was to occur. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that this week. Money will probably flow a little bit out of Tesla this week, possibly, and into some other stocks that people then then see as value, especially if we see movements down in Apple and others. And we'll be taking a look at Apple. So I think that 400 is very, very achievable, but I do think there'll be buying pressure there. At the same time, you're probably going to get this 4-hour 2050 almost crossing. Not crossing, but almost crossing. So there'll be a trend line kind of action going on. 400 psychological, a lot of reasons why that could hold. Tesla now trading at 2.17 down, 411. So that's down another, 0.5% since we started this entire stream. So that's only 26 minutes ago, we're 0.5% down. But 400, I would expect some buying around that area. So let's go over to some more questions here. A few people want gold and silver. Apple, yes, we'll do all of those. Absolutely. What are your thoughts on chatter about upcoming US market crash? Okay, so Gabe, I'm seeing this all over the place again, and I know it's easy for me to make these kind of videos and get lots of views as well. But look, the thing is, it's generally pays to be usually an optimist. Now, I do think we deserve a corrective. We deserve even further correction. There's clearly a lot of retail traders, a lot of bullish sentiment in the markets, and I don't think the markets necessarily will be continue holding on, especially if we get weak sales figures into the Christmas season. And the other thing we've got to admit is that there is a high case in the US. If Biden gets in, there's potentially a little bit more lockdowns in some sections of America. If that happens, I'm not sure if he will do it or not, but if that happens, all of a sudden, we do have weakness in the market. So I think that short term, potentially a little bit more pain. Long term, I'm going to go with the stats, and the stats are off previous high pre the crisis. We're going to see another 9% over the next 12 months. Just purely because once they start printing, once they start creating policies, once they start industrial work and all those types of things, and they're going to spend tons of money. We all know that. The massive amount of money that's going to be spent is going to be huge. So I don't think we're going into a crash, but I do think we have some potential for lower movements. Shane, he said here, oh, wow, thanks very much, Shane. Aussie $20, and he has given us Australian $20. He says, Tom's Coffee Fund, good buying opportunities coming to buy in the ASX. Thank you very much there, Shane. Appreciate that a lot. Absolutely. Wow. Thank you. $20, you didn't need to, man. Yeah, so my thoughts are I don't think necessarily that we're going to go into a crash just yet. But the vaccine will come eventually. It'll come faster than people expect, it seems. Antonio says, Tom, insiders from Apple are selling stock, including the accountant. So I guess Apple will have below expectation results. So I think there's been, if I was working at Apple, I can tell you this, or I did work at Apple. So Apple give you some pretty cool discounts, yeah? They give you some sweet share discounts. And when you're on sweet share discounts and you see 100% on your share, and you think, well, maybe I want to go buy a house for my family, I want to upgrade and things like that, there's a good time to take profit. Look, Nvidia, look at the guys there. They're taking huge amounts of money out of the business. So the insider transactions looks like it's negative for the first time over here. And this is just using FinViz's free information. And then here's the accounting officer and a few other people. It looks like taking some shares. Yeah, that's a decent amount of shares. Obviously, they were selling those 120s. October 19th announcements as well. Pretty interesting. Decent amount of money. So it is worth noting. It's a good comment. Thank you very much. And you can always check this by going to finviz.com, guys, and then just literally putting in the ticker that you want. And then you can just see insider transactions up or down. Just to show you why I said Nvidia before. If you have a look at Nvidia, it's been historically pretty negative insider transactions. Quite large movements out of the stock. And I do not blame them for selling up. They believe probably in their company. This is interesting. Director buys here a little bit. Oh, wow. Wait a second. Interesting until you check the number of shares. That's nothing. But yeah, there's been a lot of net selling. And obviously the president and CEO, wow, that's some money. Impressive. Okay, so let's have a look at Apple. Dr. Horton also asked me a question, and he says, what do you think of XLU? So thoughts on utilities killing it in the market lately, XLU. Just market rotation? I think it's market rotation. I think it's probably prepping for some things to do with, the election. Yeah, it's probably a big one. So a few people asking whether it's a good buy at Apple at these rates and whether this is kind of the support level or not. Well, I think with Apple, we always need to go over and we need to consider, well, what's been happening recently? Has this 50 exponential moving average held support? So we thought that kind of this 117, 116 level was okay, and it came down, just tapped it, bounced straight up. Okay, there was a trade there potentially. Maybe not an investment, but there was definitely a trade. And long term, it will be an investment. Then we had previous history shows us that the 20 doesn't seem to care about it recently. So that's probably why it barely cared about it here. And the 50, it hit it once, did bounce off it. We're just hitting the 50 here and we're bouncing off it. So that makes sense for it to hit the 50 and bounce off at least initially and potentially go up to the 20. I'm just going off previous information. I know that seems crazy, but that's literally what I sometimes do. But from a psychological standpoint and everything like that, I'd go with 5s and 10s on Apple. It's traded hugely by retail. There's a big amount of us out there trading this stock. I loaded up a few small accounts. I'm testing a few Australian stock programs for some people out there. And pretty much resoundingly, the biggest trades are in like Neo, Tesla, Apple from the retail crowd. Resoundingly. It's just all the volume, biggest volumes in those stocks. So yeah, I do think that the 5s make a lot of sense. If it gets under 115 today, it probably goes to 110. If it goes under 110, then hopefully the promised land of 100. But I'd be always looking at more the Nasdaq than anything else, and possibly going down to the smaller time frames, and again seeing if I can recognize any moving averages that are being respected. So here on the 1 hour, we've got multiple touches to the 20 and always finding resistance. Well, if it comes back up to the 20, breaks through it and breaks through this previous high over here, it's probably going long for a little bit. But at this point, it looks like the 20 is the sell zone, the self-fulfilling prophecy. We'll check that out today in the market open. 20 moving average here on the 1 hour, respected multiple times as a short, and even holding it generally all the way down. So I think that's pretty good. Definitely worthwhile checking out. Looks like a little bit of consolidation here. But yeah, the 20. Check that one out in the 1 hour. That's how I often just do this. When I'm trading and I'm trading an emotional stock, I look at that. I think, who's trading this? Does it make sense? Has it happened before? If it has happened before, it's probably going to happen. It's all statistics. Now, I'm not sure, I think I've still got the chat. Definitely keep asking your questions through there as much as possible. I think I've got a bit of a delayed chat here, so just say hello to me in the chat quickly to make sure it's still updating. What about Kogan, says Reese. I've covered Kogan. It's an Australian company. I don't really look at it too much because of, well, it's come down a fair bit now. So because of its epic rise, I think was the big thing for me. I mentioned this, a week ago, we were talking about it. My big thing was always that we were too far away from the 20 and that it was going to deserve a blow off. And it's pretty much getting a blow off right now. That's enough move for me to think a blow off. We've talked about this on the channel so many times. We get a very large move down in like a week that's like 20% plus. Then what are we going to see? We're going to see a time of blow-off type trades. If it really, the easiest counter to that is probably going and taking a look at gold. Similar move. Super energetic move up. Massive move up. Big sell-off. Usually around 20% sell-off is what you're looking for. And then we go into a period of consolidation. And that's where we're hitting right now. We came back down and we tested the 20 moving average. So again, what I'd be looking for on Kogan, time and time again, the same thing, the 20 moving average. And then we bounced off that zone. We kind of mentioned that as a community together, this area. And then we went from there, bounced up, and then now we're here. So we're in the middle of the zone. I think with gold, when we go through the smaller time frames, it just shows you, look at this wick rejection. Well, what do we have here? The nasty fake pin bar shooting star with very little flow on effect so far. So if gold continues its move up, what are we going to call? We're going to say if we get past this level up here, there's going to be a huge amount of shorts that are going to be in trouble. They're going to get their stops melted. And at that point, we're going to see algorithms start to pick up the position back into these previous highs over here. That 1960, 1970 zone. So I'll be watching this. Always never discount the bigger time frames. A few people asking if we use 20, do we use SME or EMA? We use EMA, not SMA. Yeah, so always EMA on the smaller time, on the 50 and the 20, and on the 200, we use the SMA. Mark says, hypothetically speaking, what type of news would make the S&P 500 crash? It seems like every news that gets announced, good or bad, makes the market rise. No more stimulus. These highs are ridiculous. So, Mark, it's when you least expect it. The thing is, it's not going to be one. It'll always be in plain sight. The excuse is always in plain sight. You just didn't think of it that way because we have 20 or 30 reasons to probably be bearish on the market. And then we have a few bullish reasons. The Fed, just generally optimism, some profits are pretty good from some big companies, obviously tech holding it, all those types of things. So it'll be generally in plain sight. It'll be just a catalyst of its time. But I don't think we're going to see another crash. They've just fundamentally underpinned the market to a degree. If it did crash and we got like a 20 or 30% down market, it would be deadly. It would be really bad because they've already kind of used everything they've got. Kevin says here, hey Tom, do you think XOM has bottomed or does it break support? Oil already down. So XOM is certainly a stock that we've been looking at and it's come back down. So a few weeks ago we were looking at this and we were talking about a little bit of a buy kind of pattern coming off that 32. Now it's come back down again and starting to test these lows. Let's have a look over here. Let's bring this up. Why is my chart so terrible here? Okay. Is that even correct? Yeah, it should be. So I think it'll come down. I think with all these lockdowns around the world, I think energy sector could cop even more, actually. I think we could get all the way back down to 30. The trend is still overwhelmingly down. We had that nice little move up, but all we've really done is just started touching some other EMAs. Look at the EMAs, look at the way the market's interacted with those, and then probably trade off it. I want to see accumulation down the bottom before I get into the energy sector hard. I will buy the energy sector, not long, for a long time, but I will buy it hard when we start to see accumulation and a breakout. Yeah, we do cover DXY all the time, so don't worry there, Angelica. No worries. So I could see it come a little bit further down, Kevin. I think long term you'll be fine, but I do think that we are going to see some accumulation around here. Jimmy says news doesn't move markets. Imbalance of supply and demand moves markets. News is the excuse, Jimmy. So I agree with you there. News is the excuse that we're told is the thing that moves it. Sometimes it is. I mean, there's no way that you can say like those kind of black swan or whatever they called it events. Those certainly are, but not all of them. Let's have a quick look at our screener around everything. So we had that move up in gold. So gold looks like it's doing quite well. This is a 15-minute gold chart. We're trading now at 1904. So decent move up there. Markets overall still looking relatively weak. This is the S&P 500 in the middle. You can see them all tagged. And then we've got Dow. I think the Dow is not really giving us any leads so much. To me, that 20 SMA or 20 EMA is going to be what I'm looking at on the futures. And we're always going to look at the real market. Tesla over here, now coming a little bit off its bottom base. US dollar index overall, we've got that starting to move up as well. So let's take a look at the dollar index. A few people have been asking about it. Might as well take a look at it. Bring up DXY. We use DXY in TradingView here. Get rid of these lines and we'll just go through the concept that I'm thinking of. So firstly, what I always do, we'll do a top-down analysis on DXY. So first thing I always do, I always look at the monthly and I say, okay, is there any key support resistances that are worthwhile considering? Well, for me, instantly 88 bottom. 88 was the bottom in 2018. 88 was also strong resistance here on the monthly. And it'd be remiss of you to not know this level, this 88.90 level. So basically 89. If we didn't have this level on our charts, I think that's a mistake. And that's just because when the market, if it does get through 92, where is it going to fill to? Well, last time it came down to 92 twice as well. It hit 92, it hit 92. When it went through, bang, 88. So what would happen this time if we see dollar weaken and get under 92? 89. Very, very possible. So I think that's why it's worthwhile taking a look at that monthly. Liam, £10. Keep up the good work, boss. Thank you very much there, Liam. Appreciate that, mate. Absolutely. That's a lot of Australian dollars that you've given me there. So thanks very much, man. Yeah, so that's the first thing I always do. Monthly, worthwhile putting on your charts. Doesn't matter, again, what stock it is or anything like that. Then you want to look at the weekly and you go through kind of the moving averages. You think, well, what's been happening? Have we seen any 1, 2, 3s? Have we seen any 1, 2s where a 20 moving average has acted as resistance or anything? Well, one thing about the dollar index is it hasn't really touched any of these moving averages. It doesn't care about them. It did find double support here, well, actually triple support, if not even more, on the 200 SMA. So that's going to be one that we watch out for in the future. Now, it's nowhere near where price is, but probably worthwhile checking out. If we go down to the daily, another one of the things that we want to be looking at there is now we draw up our support resistance. And we do so by going through, generally I like going through bodies and then keying in psychological zones. So we've got the 92, which I'm going to key in there. Get rid of this. Then I'm also going to put the recent low body close, which is 92 kind of 60. See if that lines up. There's a few little buys over there, which is important. Then I'm going to put in my 93 because that was previous support, the most recent one, very, very important. And we're trapped within these two zones. And then I always know that this resistance over here happens, so this 93.90 area. So again, that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll go in the 4 hour and I really just start breaking it down from that level. That's really what we're looking for as a community. So let's have a look now at what the price action is telling us. Well, we've found a trough. We've found a low, okay? We've found a high, or as I would call it, a peak. Then we've found a point here, which is a higher low, some people call it, or I'll call it a higher trough. We are about to get through a critical level pre-market here of 93 and also get through a wicked rejection on the 4 hour. So what will that be telling us? It'll be telling us if the market gets through here, it's going to go straight into a 50, find some resistance, come back down, and then it bounces up, it's going to be making a higher peak anyway. So when it gets through here, higher peak, that's a formalized kind of change of trend on a significant time frame being the 4 hour. Then we expect some resistance to be found here, which was previous support. And then if it gets through there, line like this, then we're all the way, as soon as it gets through this zone here, I wouldn't be surprised at all for it to go back up and test 93.90s. That's the way I think about the market. It's going to gap fill to different key zones. But right now we're at a nice little critical at this 93 plus level. Hopefully that makes some sense there. And I do believe I may have lost the chat. Let me just quickly load up another one. Do I still believe that there is reason to believe that the DXY is still inversely correlated to the SPY? I think that there is some correlation there at the moment, but it's obviously not as clean as it was. We've seen mostly dollar coming down, and then we didn't even see the market come up. The market was kind of just hovering around a zone. I think it interchanges sometimes. Really, I think the reason that this dollar was coming down was stimulus. Overall, the stimulus plan is going to be big, and it's going to need to be really big. And the longer it gets taken off the table, the bigger it's going to be. So it might be like 2.5 trillion or some insane amount of money. I think that is taking its toll on the dollar index from a fundamental standpoint. We haven't covered copper yet. We'll be doing that right now. So we're now about 45 minutes away from the market open. So not too long now. Copper rejection here after its strong move last week. It's actually a bit of bearish movement, isn't it? Now, we call copper Dr. Copper, and we do that because when copper is recovering, it is bullish for market sentiment. We had a very nice movement on copper last week, possibly just due to a spike and maybe demand across the world for it, possibly just China as well. And then now we're seeing a decline back down to a pretty healthy level, being the 20 moving average on the daily. This is all pretty healthy for bullish momentum in the market. But we do know that we want to continuously see copper making series of higher highs and higher lows, or higher peaks and higher troughs. We don't want to see it getting weak. So right now, copper just coming back down to what I think is a fairly healthy retracement. We should see buying here of copper. And the reason we should see that is previous resistances, a little bit of resistance over here. This should all act as support along with the 20. It's probably as much as I'd look into it. Copper's been quite nice and quite bullish recently, which is good for market sentiment. But if we do have the breaks of the S&P 500 today, and when we go around the futures, if these things start getting under our key zones, here's the 3417 S&P, then all of a sudden we're probably going to see copper weaken as well. But right now, copper's just at a very healthy point. It just can't go any lower. No lower is what we say if we're a bull. Kyle said he sold 50% of his Tesla at 440 and bought some Bitcoin. Well, I guess that was a pretty good idea, Kyle, if you did it a few weeks ago. Not bad. A few people want to have a look at silver. We will do that. Sandola says commercial real estate is tanking in London, New York City, and have become ghost towns. How does it look in Australia? Well, it's hard for us to really even consider it because we haven't been able to go outside. But I haven't really looked too much at the commercial real estate market. It's been pretty good in bigger sized, but if you're talking about the traditional, what I guess Americans would refer to as the mum and pop stores, yeah, they're struggling. You can see it, and they're closing and they're up for lease. It's not so good. Jazz B says not good here, especially in Melbourne. Yeah, I think the big office buildings will be fine and the big floor spaces, but not necessarily the rest of it. Angelica says, as of today, no stimulus till after the election. They left town, but can be recalled in 24 hours. Dr. Horton says, Dr. Copper is no relation to me, but we are friends. Well, only friends when it's doing the right thing for you there, Doctor. So yeah, I think Australia, the government's really pro-housing in Australia, super pro-housing. For any of the people out there that's from Canada, from New Zealand, we all know about how popular it is from a perspective of housing in these countries. And they prop it pretty hard. They do prop it up pretty hard. So here's just our look at gold before we go into silver. We've got the 20 and the 50 exponential moving average here on the 4 hour. We talked about how gold was moving up. We obviously have that 1930 target, the 1920 break. That should have been a bit more bullish, but it wasn't. Bit of fake outs coming into this election, by the way. It's why we're saying if you're going to trade smaller time frames. I think until the election's over, crazy weird moves could stop a lot of your swing-based trades. That's just the reality of the situation. So we found some resistance off this little bit of a trend line here. You know I'm not a fan of trend lines. You can curve fit them, draw them. I've been pretty consistent on this one, but even this one, I curved it a little bit. You'll notice that if you look at the way I had it drawn the other day, it was like this, and there was like this little close below it. It's not enough for me to take a trade. And then we did have a more significant close below it, but really probably around here is where you started thinking about it. And right now, few people are calling this kind of a little head and shoulders. I'm not really calling it that, but I do think we have a critical level right here. Let's draw that up horizontally. We have a nice little level here. Body close, wick rejection hammer. What do we know about that? Wick rejection hammer gets taken out with a body close, usually considers more selling. We've come up, tested the 2050. We're now rejecting that. It's all on here for gold. And especially if dollar index continues to strengthen, it's going to put a lot of pressure on gold versus US dollar. So I'm actually a bit bearish on this right now, especially if we get through that bull side on dollar index. If we take a look at the line we had drawn here for silver, similar kind of action. The line has been broken. Let's just quickly take that out. 2050 cross coming in here for the 4 hour. We're straight through that. Again, all on the dollar index overall. I'd be looking at the dollar index making a new high, which it's doing right now, it seems. And if it does that, then we're probably going to see further selling from all these pairs. Notice how they're correlated together. Comes up, tests the perfect level, rejects. At the same time, dollar index starts bulling. Jose says I'll call it the crisis, because you know what? I got blacklisted last week for saying one word about this stupid crisis. They took away all the pay. They just completely stopped ads. It's crazy they're still doing it. So it's had little financial effect here in Japan, from Jose. So yeah, it seems like you guys have it pretty under control. You get decent numbers, but overall your system can handle it. Amazon needs to start moving today. So we're now about, almost 38 minutes away from the open. So not that long. Let's have a look at our pre-market chart here and see where the movers have been. So these are the current movers coming in. There's a little bit of movement overall. Salesforce, again, 2.28, was down about 1.5 before, then hit 2. Tesla, 1.78%. Some other notables in there. And if we keep scrolling down, we've got Apple down 1.2%, JD down 1.27%. Not too strong coming into the pre-market. Market overall, AMD with the upgrade, 0.72 up. Zoom, the unstoppable machine, is up as well, 5.11. This stock worries me a lot. We did see a bit of a sell-off there last week, but this stock terrifies me. It's terrifying. Let's have a quick look at Zoom. So this is the run on the weekly, and I say it and I say it again. It's good to be in the run, but you've got to have your kind of get out of jail free card on these types of stocks. So it hit almost the 600, almost that psychological stops just before. It's a pretty big sell-off here. We've got 588 down to a low of 503. So relatively large sell-off here on Zoom. Coming back to the daily 20, it needs to hold this. Last time it went slightly through and then hit the 50, but I think it needs to hold this one. Previous little resistance closes, needs to hold this 20. I think this stock still terrifies me from a level right now. It's on cloud 9. Wouldn't be surprised to see some decent buying here later on. A few people saying, Sean says, seems like Bitcoin might pull back after breaking long-term 12K resistance. I do think it could do that. Bitcoin is looking like it could certainly reverse back down a little bit after its nice move. Kind of been calling strength on Bitcoin for a little while now. We had a very nice break a few weeks ago. We had beautiful buying sentiment over here at the 10K. Just like we talked about at the start of this stream, multiple wick kind of rejections here shows a huge amount of buying accumulation pressure on the daily. We had that on the ASX 200 in the opposite direction. If it had broken below here, it would have been serious selling. But overall, of course, strong. Nice little consolidation here, strong breakout. What happened previously after that is probably what you want to be looking at. Previous strong break above 10, it went all the way to 12. Maybe we even go to 14, and then we start consolidating and then potentially pull back. I probably expect more consolidating here as the moving average needs to catch up, and it will want to touch that from the top down. I wouldn't be surprised at all for it to consolidate, come down, and hit the 20. Look at the previous market structure to understand what it'll do next. JP Morgan recommends BTC on Friday, Angelica says. That means sell, Angelica. Angelica, sorry. Yeah, usually when someone's recommending anything, that's never a great thing from the big banks. What do we know about Goldman here, guys? What's our theory on Goldman Sachs? When they tell you to do something, you run away from it. Buzzblad says, been very lucky in Tasmania, great place. Amazing seafood. If you've ever thought about coming to Australia, it's probably worthwhile going and checking out Tassie. They are just about to open up again. Zoom is a crisis stock, says unexpected visit. Yeah, I understand that, but it's pretty heavy on how well they think they're going to do. I don't think they've got anything that massive that is not difficult for other companies to get involved in. Is BTC expensive now? So BTC is high, but I don't think it's overly expensive. Whenever Wall Street banks recommend something they don't want it best suits for you, especially Goldman. Goldman's the number one When Goldman say something, run away from it. It's been, I think if you had like a Goldman, I almost want to get it coded. I almost want to pay someone to code it. When Goldman alerts something, let's see how often it's the counter signal. Yeah, here we go. Arjan says this. Well, Goldman Sachs has been doing something right. They had killer earnings this last quarter. Yeah, they trade against you. Goldman got done for it back in 08. I don't think they would stop doing it. They made great money then as well. Yeah, Goldman do very well off that action. Thanks very much, Roman. He says, hi, mate. Love your live shows. No worries, man. Always appreciate that. So on the Friday close or the last week, we had two standout performers, Google and Facebook. Here's a classic case of disinformation. What did we see earlier in the week? Google getting attacked by government, supposedly. Facebook also getting attacked by negative articles around Google and Facebook in particular. Very negative articles. Yet they were the best performers of the week. I saw so many positive articles about Netflix last week, and then it had bad earnings. And Netflix is a good one for us to look at from a technical analysis perspective, by the way. It's going to get to a point of value soon, at least for a trade. But yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Often what you read, try to look at the price action. What's the price action telling you? Is it telling you that you should be scared or you should be actually pretty excited? It's one of the things that we have an advantage on as a trader. So where was Facebook last week? It was down here, hitting the 50 exponential moving average. Where was Alphabet last week? It was starting to look like it was back on a good level. That's usually the way I want to be looking at things. I'm not sure if there's going to be Alphabet. This is C. But yeah, Alphabet was at a perfect buy zone. Two literal moving averages across just before, comes down. This is going to be a fib of the move. We talked about this. Very, very nice. And then bang, buys off it. It's a classic case of stealing money off us, unfortunately. Thanks very much for the subscriptions out there as well. And thank you very much to the community. It looks like we've got almost 500 viewers here for a Monday open. So thank you very much, everyone. We will be doing a massive event as well next week. US election, not talking so much. Well, we'll talk about the election, but not really from my political standpoint, just the finances. The finances are so fun. Last time was wild. That was crazy, crazy, crazy. The moves were huge swings, crazy index action. Maybe not that fun this time, but I think it'll be a great day. So definitely join us then. Let's have a look at that Sap earnings report. So Sap came out and whoa, look at that. Let's have a look at this. Everything's great, and no, it's not. So here's what happens when you get a stock that maybe is doing okay, and then after the crisis, and then it misses earnings. And there's the miss. Missing is not good. Someone asked me before about CSL, a great healthcare company in Australia. If they truly missed earnings of growth targets, this is what happens to a growth stock when growth goes bad. Because it's fundamentally, everyone expects it to continue doing really, really well. Now, a stock like this doesn't, what'll probably happen to this, probably bounce a bit tomorrow, and then it will continue to decline and float like this for a while. It takes a while to get back from such a massive drop. Massive drops are very rarely going to come with a very quick pullback. Intel, classic example. Look at this. Oh, anyone that sold here for Intel, you should be very, very happy. We had a great little buy on this one over here, and I can tell you that is a beautiful sell by anyone. Like quads up, becoming resistance, getting out a little bit early before earnings. You knew earnings was coming. Oh, earnings right back down to support. But here's the 20%. My point is, here's the 20%. Nice amount of accumulation. Don't be the person that just sits there in this for ages. You can be stuck in here for like years waiting for the damn thing to come back. Wait until the price action tells you to get back in and you get that nice quick trading move or investing move. That's what you want to be looking at. Another classic case, Cisco. Stock that superiorly has underperformed. Moves down pretty hard Look at this, continuous decline. The retail trap comes in. Whenever you have a 20% down day, it does not recover. I've been burnt 15 times by this. 15, I would say, maybe more over the years. I've made the cardinal sin of doing it. It's not good. I don't want you to make the mistake I've made. It's bad. $77 coming in with 5 American dollars. Very good dollars. Thank you very much. Says keep it up. Will do, Sandola. Always appreciate your support. Thank you very much. George Harris says, hey, can you do Apple? We've had a look at Apple a little bit over the time there, George. Just give me 1 sec, guys. I'm just going to get a drink. There we go. You don't need to hear me do that. So, yeah, I think Apple we've covered a few times. No worries. Thank you very much. Mabo Hubbard says, so do you stop reading the news? Yeah, I do pretty much. How do you manage bad/good news and trades? I know I've gotten out of stocks because of bad news and the stock did the complete opposite. So Mabo, I'd like to ask you a question here. When you say bad news, is the bad news a thought process behind the stock, or is the bad news an earnings release? Remember, earnings are a real fundamental reason. That's a real reason. Earnings, not speculation on the earnings themselves. Now, if you get out on bad news and then it does the opposite of the bad news, the fundamental bad news, you got to look at, again, the price action coming into it. What's the expectation of the market? The market is generally optimistic. That's why sometimes you will see a stock beat expectations by like 7 to 10%, but it goes down. You think, well, why is that? Well, the price action probably tells you. Maybe it's been running into the announcement with optimism and it expected. You look at the last kind of 5 reports, they've always beaten expectations by 15%. And they only beat it by 10%. Well, guess what? That is a disappointment to the market based on previous facts. So mostly for me, I just kind of read the fundamentals. I do have a look at the news, but I just look at it from a perspective of finding out when key bits of economic data are coming out. And that's really all I'm looking at. Hopefully that makes some sense. BA says, depends on the source of the bad news. True, BA. It's a difficult question to answer. I think there's no correct answer there, but there certainly is ways of thinking about it a little bit differently. Thoughts on Shopify. So we'll definitely check out that. We're now 26 minutes away from the market open. I'm excited. So Shopify being a very, very popular crisis stock, this one. Good reason. I think there is a lot of growth in this and a lot of people have been using it. I have got friends that started these things. So we came down and we hit the 20 exponential moving average here on Shopify during September. That was a great little kind of initial buy zone. We've now gone and tested the resistance. We have earnings this week, and usually ahead of earnings, it's dangerous. I would expect if the market obviously goes bullish, we should see it go back up and kind of hover around the resistance level up here. Hover around this 1100 to 1112 area. It's back on the 50. I think it's in the middle of nowhere's land. And we've clearly got a trap here on this one. So we've got a trap probably more from the weekly perspective in this range. You take the weekly is the most important. Take the body closes, bring it down a little bit to the body closes each way. Take a look also at the psychological levels, whether that makes some type of sense. And then I just have a trap on it and I'd be looking at buying the 20, which is this 950, or I'd be looking at buying down here. And if I thought, oh, well, I'm going to do that. If it does break out above, you're always going to be given the opportunity to rebuy it at this level. So I think of it as a risk reward. Current price, is that worth my risk reward? The risks down here, the rewards maybe up here. Not worth it to me, yeah? I don't like that. But I do like it from an investment down here or down here because there's probably going to be buying pressure at those levels. Now, if I miss that and a good earnings report comes out, after the earnings subsides, it's going to come back down. It's going to test all of this previous resistance as support. So I'm not going to get that much worse a price than currently. I might get 8%. But on a stock that's going mental like this, maybe that's not going to be that bad. So from my perspective, it's stuck in the range. Netflix would probably be the closest example that I can use similar to this. So Netflix, you can see again, this is the risk side of things. So everything was riding, it's all positive, Netflix is going to be great, blah, blah, blah. Again, it missed some expectations. We had a nice little kind of resistance being tested up here. It was hovering very, very similar zone before the announcement, kind of in that that top third, and then bang, announcement comes out, where we think there could be some buying pressure. Back down, previous body closes. Buys, could be buys again. Take a look at a weekly as well. Just hit the 20, very, very similar to what Shopify was looking like as well. There was a 20 underneath, and there's buying pressure here as well. So both areas could be buying pressure regardless of what the market does. Yeah, we have done Tesla a few times. Thanks very much, Siddharth, for telling everybody. Mark says, something's not right, Tom. The indices have risen too much too soon. Statistics show that when that happens, the stock market crashes. Too many getting used to 10-bag returns, not normal, not healthy. I agree. 10-bag returns are not healthy. And it isn't an expectation. We may see, though, the market decline, some stocks crashing that have got ridiculous expectations on them, but there is a broad majority of the stocks that aren't doing that well. There is a lot of stocks that haven't done that well. I'll bring up a sector chart for everybody to just emphasize that point. So let's have a look at a sector chart here of the last year in the market. Okay, so here's the last year in the market. I'll bring that on for everyone over here. So actually, let me just quickly... Let me just quickly print this thing. 1 year. There we go. Download and open. Okay, so we're going to open that up for everybody now, and we'll go through it. All right. So here we've got a sector chart for the last year. And I think this is really, really cool because what it shows us is, well, how many sectors are really going crazy and how many aren't? Well, everyone knows tech sector. It deserves some extra money. There's no doubt that it is making lots of coin. There's lots of coin here. Some of these sectors are okay. Energy obviously beaten down through, and it's important to know what these percentages are of makeup, but predominantly there's not too much craziness in this middle section. It does deserve, and remember the US market is the only market in the world that I know of, other than the Chinese markets, that is really going ballistic high. And that's because they've got so much tech. So much tech. So I think it's pretty crazy. Pretty fast move there, Mark. But I do think that some of it is deserved. And some of these stocks will come off very, very hard. And we could see that. Look at this. When the market started dipping, other stock market sections, other than energy, didn't go down that much, but there was a very large decline here in the tech sector and a very large decline here in also XLY, consumer discretionary. Two sectors that were getting a little bit overbought. $5 Aussie coming in here from Aussie Cobar 71. Thank you for your technical analysis. Always appreciate it. Cheers, Marlene. Thank you very much, Marlene. Appreciate that. Appreciate your support there. Ure says, sorry to ask, what is a 10-bag return? So they call it 10-bagger. It basically means making 10 times on your money. You risk $100, you make $1,000. You risk $1,000, you make $10,000. So yeah, we call it a 10-bagger. Pretty bad slang, yeah? All right, so 20 minutes coming in from the markets here. Let's have a look at our Webull pre-market for 20 billion plus companies, as we always do. Overall, not too much green now. Green is going down. It's all red. It's all red. GE, a bad company. That is not a good one. It's scary, that one. Salesforce now down 2.24. Chevron, a few others. Probably expect a bunch of energy stocks down today again. Going through just generally the list there. We talked about Hasbro earnings. We talked about, of course, Sap not coming in too strongly there. We will bring that up later. But from my perspective, I look at it as XLK deserves to be higher. It does, but there are some certain stocks that will crash. They will crash. You can see it in Australia with the wild moves on certain things right now. So dollar index has failed to make really the new body close high. Again, it just shows you why as technical analysts we want to wait for body close highs on any time frame that we're looking at. Bit of rejection coming in through here now as well off that top peak. Thank you very much for the subscriptions there, everybody, in support of the community. Appreciate that. So over the top, we've got the three major indices. We have the US 100, Nasdaq. We've got the S&P 500 in the middle, and we've got the Dow on the right-hand side. We'll be using all of these coming into the market. Gold down bottom left, dollar, of course. And then on the right-hand side, the stock of choice, which right now is Tesla. We'll probably change that. We'll go with, well, actually, what does the community think? What should be the stock of choice bottom right-hand side? Put it as Apple for now, but we'll get the community's thoughts. Just to quickly recap a few things, we've got the put-call ratios overall kind of in the middle of nowhere land. If we look at some kind of websites, some people don't like this one, but the Greed Fear Index from... I know some people don't like this website. I've seen that in community comments. But if we look at the CNN Greed Fear Index, it's actually not a bad little tool for people to use, just to get a bit of an idea of some of the things that people used for fear and greed. So we've got extreme greed supposedly in the market right now. Put call ratio obviously is shown here. Junk bond demand, safe haven demand. It's a good, I think it's a pretty good indicator, really, this little one. Market volatility overall, stock price breadth, that's always interesting to understand, and then fear and greed over time. So wow. Look at that. How is that happening right now? Either this is lagging super hard, or we're getting greed while the market is relatively come back down. Very interesting to see this greed go back up. This is a high reading. So interesting, so much trapping potentially going on from Wall Street right now. Remember, if Goldman come out and tell us to buy everything, we better be worried. Goldman told us to buy tech stocks a few weeks ago too. And then they went down. Greed is good on the Sand Dollar Index. Sand Dollar 77 says. Mark says, so bad news on the tech front would cause a crash in. Yeah, that's true, Mark. That's true. Yes. If you want to summarize what I was saying, yes, bad earnings on tech would cause a monster movement on the markets. Well, what is the Nasdaq now as a percentage? It's made up of what, 4 or 5 companies make up, what, 40% plus of it, if not more. Sean says, GE, the boomer company. Yeah, I guess it would be. It's definitely not a company that we have as much faith in, is it? So 15 minutes now away from the open. Not too long now to see it. VIX 29.5 says Eggy. Let's take a look at that VIX level. So that's come up a lot since we've been talking, guys. Wow. Yes, it has. VIX coming up. We actually mentioned at the start of the stream it's more likely that it was going to go rise up. Now, the thing with the VIX, though, is if you... Damn, should have got that one myself. I do have some positions. But, look, I don't really trade the VIX. And the reason why is because of the crazy holding cost on it, yeah? But this VIX has increased very substantially here. Go over to candle charts, and you can see the gap open there from the close to the open. So we talked about this last week. We talked about how it came back in the middle zone. We thought it would get some big volatility into this week. It just makes sense. Super Thursday earnings, US election, crazy stuff in the world, potential shutdowns all over the place in other European countries and who knows what. Of course you're going to see a rising VIX fear. Insiders are selling Microsoft big time, says Arjan. Let's have a look at that, Arjan. We have our free resource here. Finviz, definitely not support. Actually, I should contact them and see if they'll give me their premium. Oh, why am I piping Arjan? I'm typing in RGen over here. Microsoft. All right. That's pretty funny. There we go. We got Microsoft coming up. So negative 3.75 from insider transactions. Have a look at the recent transactions here. Maybe you have some more updated information than we do. But overall, it doesn't look like we've got too much going on here from a sales perspective recently. Arjan, you infiltrated my mind. I start typing it in. Yeah, so this one isn't showing it, but it could be delayed. We've got a downgrade here as well from July, but some of this information is actually pretty out, it looks like. That is ridiculously out, actually. Come on, guys, you got to give me some slack. Actually, speaking of slack, how are we going with that stock? Old work, is that doing well? I wonder if Slack, I don't really understand whether they have competitive advantage that much in the industry. I know this is actually a big investment in ARK, if you ever looked at ARK and that those investment people and what they do. But Slack is really around this 28.65. It's been a bit of an underperformer, especially after its really nice move up after the crisis period. We had as high as 39.91. And a few stocks did this. They had that initial massive move and then the standard decline after that. The bull trap, as some people would call it. But Slack's really in the middle of buying land, isn't it? We had a lot of kind of resistance over here, some support, got through quickly, bounced up, and now it's come back down to the 28.56. Potentially some support there. So we're now only, 12 minutes away. We're starting to get pretty close. We've got an increase in the VIX. Let's have a look at the markets just generally. Let's load up that US 500 futures into the open. We have been seeing futures in general a bit weak overall. Get rid of this countdown to bar close. So we're looking at a 34.30 right now on the S&P. We are looking at a US 100 coming in at around 11.591. So no surprises that it's probably going to try to open around 11.6. Why is it going to do that? Because on the real market, if you look at the real NDX, we are going to see 11.6 as the key critical, the 200-point increments. So I wouldn't be surprised at all for the market to open right around 11.6 here. She says, sell Apple, iPhone 12 sucks. Well, they took my money, Ashish. I've got an iPhone 12 here. I'll tell you what, my thought process on this iPhone 12 is that it's nothing special, but I do like the click when you tap your old iPhone to it and then it just instantly transfers all your data. That's pretty nice. I think the good thing about Apple and why they're going to hold everybody is just it's so easy to use. There's nothing special about this iPhone 12 though. You are right. It is it should have, a few other features. I heard also that it's actually if you put a leather case on the back, it imprints the logo into the case. That's great technology right there. So refresh of the futures market. We'll go over all the futures right now. Overall, 1% down across most market indices. We had very weak days by the DAX, 2.62%, 1.85 on the Euro stocks, always important to note. Nikkei was not down that much. Crude, probably the story of the day, down pretty hard. Crude's been moving a lot. Silver, platinum, copper, all of those down. Copper being our doctor of the market. It's looking bleak for the market on a Monday morning coming into the open. US dollar slightly up, which we do expect. VIX opened very strong there. And in the Forex markets, in terms of the mains, really just a little bit of US dollar strength across the board. And crypto markets were slightly red. So that's because of US dollar strength across the board. A little bit of hedging coming into the election. Stuff that's going to move hard. If you're a currency trader, we don't talk about it enough on this channel, but if you are a currency trader, remember odd dollar, as in Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, and Mexican peso are incredibly reliant on indices. If indices go down, they all get flatlined. So remember, they are volatile to indices moves, and then of course Swiss and Japanese yen usually considered more of the hedge. Profit warning from Sap on DAX market, says Diddy. Yep, we've talked about the Sap one, absolutely. Thank you very much for letting us know, though. Shane says AZN is the farmer to buy. Not too sure about that one, but thank you very much, Shane. Dr. Horton says, are you really going to move all your iCloud photos to another service? Yeah, once they've got you, they trap you in, Doctor. You can't get away from them. What is my favorite stock at the moment? Ooh, it's a good question there, Gabe. A little while ago it was McDonald's, but I've done with that now. Get back to you. There's a few stocks I'm looking at, but I wouldn't say I've got a favorite. There's a lot of stocks that, because I guess a favorite isn't, are we talking favorite from I just like the stock, or are we talking a favorite from a good price right now? Because I always think a favorite is what I'm hunting right now in the markets in terms of price. I don't think of it as, oh, I love this stock. I mean, favorites would just be the classics, wouldn't they? There'd be a lot of the tech stocks, you know, the Apples and such, but that's not really what I think we're interested in. We're interested in a little bit outside the box thinking. So probably some of my favorites right now are actually becoming the indices at the right prices. And that's something I'm looking at. And I'm specifically in Australia, I targeted small caps. So I targeted stuff that hit the budget. So really anything that was like EX20, so anything out of the top 20, I was a big target on that. I'm starting to do a lot of sector picks. So I'm just picking like giant like thought processes over a decade. And I'll probably make a lot of those decisions after the US election as well. And a lot of people will. A lot of big investors. I don't like betting before. I like making the decision after. But right now, yeah, big thing for me has been moving into budget stuff in Australia, which has been all about small caps. Tom loves DKNG. I don't know about that one. I do like its moves. Dr. Horton says Macca's. Yeah, Macca's is good. So we got 7 minutes away here. Well, McDonald's was good. It's just a great hedge against unemployment. That's all. Look, Kyle says looking into the Canada cannabis industry. Yeah, I think that was a very big thing a few years ago. Man, the cannabis stocks went wild. Jimmy says a phone is a phone as long as it rings. So looking around the markets, we do have mostly declines, but we're starting to get a little bit up here. We'll start trapping up these markets together. So we've got mostly 15 minutes. Well, let's move this down to a 15 minute as well. So we'll move these down to 15 minutes. The Asian European sessions, remember, they do not matter. We're going to body close. That is a big level of SUP there on the 15 minute here. Body close that US 100. We're going to look at the top here as well. We've got the 11.6, which we expect the market to start to float into pre-market. And we've got this kind of weird 69, 70 zone. There's a lot of body closes around there on the 15 minutes though. This is the Nasdaq on the left-hand side. We'll trap it like that. Similarly for the S&P, the big thing we saw before was the 15 minute respecting this 20. So will it do so? Now this isn't the real market 20, it's the futures market 20. So technically we've just hit that level, and on the Dow, the 20 as well has just been reached. So 20, 20, 20 all over there. 20, 20 for 20. Alan says, do you think we should reduce equity positions and increase cash significantly now ahead of the election? Oh, not necessarily, Alan. I think honestly that the market will just continue going bullish regardless of the election. I guess maybe if the Democrats get in maybe initially a little bit of decline and then move up, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen about it. The market will do what it does. I don't reduce ahead of the risk. I look to place new orders after the risk, or into mispriced kind of stock. If I'm trading and I've got weird open kind of huge leverage positions, yeah, I might de-risk, but you've got to make your own decisions there, obviously. So we're now 4 minutes away from the market open. I'm just going to get a quick water. It looks like it's going to be a pretty exciting Monday. Hopefully we get some action in the first half an hour, guys. I do hope as a community we get some of that. Ash says, Tom, do you buy options on indices or SPY? Yes, Ash, I do. I use a lot of spreads, man. A lot of spreads. I love spreads. Spread action is where it's at on the markets. Spreads way out of the money. Way out of the money. Think about it this way. The way I consider a market is that everyone looks at a price. So let's say you see a double bottom, yeah? Let's just say this was. It's not good, but anyway, if it was. If the market goes up and breaks above here, what's everyone looking at? Current price. What am I looking at? The expectation of the move. If you think of it that way, and then you place a spread at the expectation close of the move and put like a little order in like here, what are you doing? You're looking where no one else is and you're getting cheap price. And when it comes in and through, you get very, very nice payoffs. Remember, you don't care whether, you don't have to capture the whole point. You just have to put a certain level of risk somewhere along this move that you're predicting with options. You don't have to put it down here. Anyone that buys a call here is a noob. I mean, that's just the way you look at it. If you put like a little slither in here, you could capture a very small little bit amount of move, put the same amount of risk on, and really your buy call here for it to be successful, it would still have to get up here anyway. So that's one of the ways I think about the market. A little bit different, a little bit outside the box. Maybe you've heard it before, maybe that's what you do. But that's something I've learned. 2 minutes now before the open. Wow, wow, wow. We are very, very close, which is exciting. 12:30 at night. I hate daylight savings. Chuck a little bit of mood music in here. We'll keep these lists up. We've got the 20 moving averages here on the futures markets. Got obviously the Nasdaq probably trapped the best here on the left hand side. If you're wondering which ones each, I've got them labeled here for you with the left hand side labels. We've got Apple down the bottom right. 2 minutes away now. Jimmy says the trade to be in will be airlines and cruise lines once the vaccine is out and found. They're all discounted and humans repeat the same stuff over and over. I tend to agree with you, but Jimmy, look for cash flow. Cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. As in they can hold what has happened to them and they're not in dire straits. Do not buy companies that have no money. Unless they get free money. So we're now only, 40 seconds away from the bell. All right, quick Webull check. Pre-market, worst stock right now. Of note, Salesforce 2.2 down. Tesla also 2 down. So just about to get in here for the bell. Get rid of this music. Let's get ready. Get the bells ready. Put them in the room. I want to see bells everywhere. All right. Countdown, 15 seconds to go. Thank you very much, everyone joining us live here for the open on Monday. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already. Definitely appreciate it. Here comes the bell. Oh yeah. Just feels like we're there in the pit. We're there in the pit. Congratulations to the IPO. Let's come out. So we're off and ready for the races. Now we did expect the market to generally open at around that 11.6 here for the Nasdaq, slightly under in the open. S&P slightly up, finding some buying pressure. I just want to remind everyone that whatever we see in the first hour of trade has historically been wrong. And that's because the last 1 hour of trade has been the time where you are seeing Wall Street make their major kind of plays. So we're now testing the 11.6 here on the Nasdaq from the top down, which has been a bit of a resistance during the futures trade. We have the dollar index overall weakening. What's this thing down here? Apple did open down low and it's found buying pressure straight away. So decent buying pressure coming in. If we take a look at the Webull kind of moves here, percentage moves, again, let's see, some of these things weren't down as much, 1.88, so they're all buying up, at least for the first couple of minutes. Zoom's off and racing, the favorite of the retail herd, and supposedly some Wall Street players. So pretty wild there on Zoom. Fairly large moves. I'll leave this here and just answer a couple of questions because it's always interesting to see the big moves up. So we'll leave them up there for a second. Sand Dollar coming in, Sand Dollar 77 with $4 American for a coffee. Thank you very much there, Sand Dollar. Appreciate your support as always. Esther said, Cole says my first ever open. Is that true? Well, congratulations. Hopefully you've caught the investment bug. Investment trading, doesn't matter what you like, whether it's real estate, whether it's bonds, whether it's stocks, whether it's business. Never hate on someone from being successful in their field and understanding that field. If you ever hear somebody say, oh, I hate the stock market or I hate property or something like that, they just don't understand the asset yet. I used to be like that. I used to rag on a whole bunch of things, but it's not worth doing. It's all good. Sean says it's the K-shaped recovery time. So we've got some moves here. Very, very nice moves coming in from the percentage changes there. Go to the negative side. What are we seeing now? Where's our kind of down stocks that we were looking at before? So Salesforce we were looking at. Looks like there's been some switches. Go back over the charts. Oh, bullish moves here off the Sap. So this is the key level for the bulls. This is the key level for the bulls to get control on the Nasdaq. Now, they need to buy it here. You need to buy it here. Why is that? Previous resistances. So we're still finding bullish pressure here. This is a nice little start. 3 minutes in and we've already put on, what is this? Yeah, about 40, 50 points on the futures. Dollar continues to slide. Pavel says K-shaped and it looks like he's dabbing. Siddharth says degenerate gamblers trade the open. That is true. I do feel like the open is a little bit degeneration. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We all start there though, Siddharth. We all start there. Usually we start on a 5-minute, 1-minute chart. I was worse than most. I started on a tick chart. Probably no one's even looked at the tick chart before. That was pretty degenerate of me. Back in 2008, looking at the tick chart on currency. So first 15 minutes is usually what we're looking for in terms of closes to see whether we see fake. So we'll come back to these charts in only a few moments. Post in the room some of the stocks that you want us to look at as a community, and we certainly will do that. Then we'll come back to our screener here with all of the different charts on it. So again, thank you very much to TradingView. Pretty good little software out there if you haven't used it. Why do I recommend TradingView? Not because they give us money, though they did give me a premium log on for free, but I actually recommend it mostly for this one reason. I've used so many trading tools over the years. If you're a technical analyst or you want to be a technical analyst, the key is always going to be that you want to have one platform where you can analyze all of your stocks, all of your currencies, all of your commodities, and you don't have to continuously learn different platforms. TradingView is pretty good like that. It has so many feeds in it, which is nice. So I do think that it's worthwhile. Seeing here the VIX coming off, the fear is slightly coming off. Again, this 30 holds it. I mean, it didn't quite get there, or did it? Oh, look at that, 30. And then it holds it again. So will it put more pressure on after a few minutes? What's become accustomed is that when we stop streaming, about 5 minutes after the stream ends, the market dips about 100 points on the Nasdaq. So we'll see whether that happens again. Checking out silver, gold, they're all probably coming back up. Let's have a look at some things that people want. Shane wants me to look at AZN, which is Astrazeneca. So Astrazeneca had a pretty good announcement today, I think, Shane. Pretty sure this had a good announcement about vaccine stuff. So it's coming up. It's moving a little bit higher. I think they're back in trials or something like that. It's coming back to a point of resistance here, Shane. So we've got supports, resistance, probably going to act as some form of resistance, you would think, today. This is the 4-hour chart. Let's have a look at the higher time frames, though, and see the overall trend. So came back down to the really nice level. Again, with stocks, the best time frame is always going to be weekly. I love the weekly. The weekly is the best. Daily's great too, but weekly is excellent for investing. Investing is weekly. So it came back down, tested the 50, previous resistance becomes support. Also, there was some support over here. So very, very nice level. Bouncing off it. I do expect it to find some resistance up here where it'll probably test the 20 and it'll become dynamic resistance as well. That's the thing that does happen. So if we go down to the 1 hour, have a think about what's going on. Right here is where I expect some selling pressure to come in there, Shane. But overall, you know, things are looking good. These stocks can go ballistic. If they get it right, we all know it can move up quite heavily. So probably for me, I'd be looking for more like this. I'd be saying, okay, well, it's moved up like this so far. So we've got to move here, find some resistance, pull back a little bit to a fib, move up, and effectively made a trough, a peak, a higher trough, a higher peak, and we've solidified bullish momentum on that time frame. A significant time frame being the 4 hour. So that's the first one that we're looking at. Then another one is Bubba that's been requested. The unstoppable force of the Alibaba group. Testing the resistance again here. We mentioned this so many times over the last couple of weeks, haven't we? It's had some nice buy zones, but it's unstoppable right now. 312. I want to just quickly mention this. Someone mentioned Snap before because Snap had a good announcement. Notice how when these IPOs come on, oh, can someone tell me, what was that IPO that Buffett was part of? Let me know. Community, let me know what it was. I want to have a look at it. I can't remember what it was now. I know I wouldn't buy it, but I wanted to check that out. Definitely let me know which one that is. So I was just going to say, the first usually 18 months to 2 years is weak on the American markets. Everything that comes in usually has that spike in it initially. Weakness, Facebook, Snap, Twitter. I don't know, I could keep naming them. Alibaba here. And then it has a nice recovery a few years in. It's why I've got a bit of a rule. I don't really buy it in the first couple of years. Snowflake. Thank you. That's the one. Thank you very much, community. You know what's up. So yeah, Baba's going well. All right. So what's happened since the start of the snow? So the hype train, the sell-off. This is the weekly. Wow, look at that. Horrid thing. So it went up, 210 to 316. Then it blew off really hard. Big moves. There's only a few weeks worth of data here, but this is huge moves. All right, I'm going to come back to this later on. I'm going to predict we're going to be under this low over here. Under this body low again, and possibly even under 200. I'll go with that. I'll come back to the snow. Barrack Gold. Barrack Gold, okay. I could regret that, but I don't think so. So Barrack Gold, another one that Buffett has been buying, which is why a lot of people got into it. Another classic case of Buffett probably bought over here or something, disclosed it or bought here, disclosed it. This is the day he disclosed it, went up, and then it comes back down to fair value. Buffett still holds a lot of sway in these markets. Look at the initial move happened with that supposed pharmaceutical company that he was buying in, I think, Israel or something. God, that stock went up huge and then really got dumped recently. So we've got nice support here on Barrack as well. This is pretty much the buy zone right now. But if it gets any lower, then it probably goes back down to the previous buy where probably Buffett was buying at 26.75. Okay, Neo had a good gap up. We're hearing in. We've got 5 minutes till first check of the 15 minute. Neo has been the 20 monster. The 20 monster. Look at that. Beautiful 20 buying. Nice little pull back here though. Back to the 25 psychological number. We've talked about this last week. We said that it was approaching the 30 and would probably sell off that zone. And I think it wants the 25. Neo wants the 25. We're going to come and touch that 20. We want it. We want to see that level and then, like before, probably find some buying pressure. I know you probably hope I'm wrong, but if it does, that would make sense just based on previous action here. So what's the markets doing? Well, the Nasdaq is finding the biggest amount of strength here into the 15-minute. It looks pretty massive because it's a 15-minute chart, but this is relatively large. This is a nice move here, pretty bullish move into the earnings season. We've got earnings obviously coming up all the way through this week for the tech companies. So testing here from the 4 hour down, the 20, which on the Nasdaq has been the resistance so far. Usually what I do at this point is I start to move over to the real market. So I'd start to move over to the SPX for the S&P 500, because the SPX, remember, the futures market and the real market are pretty different things. Interesting to see what's happening here on the Dow. The Dow is down now at 27,950. So it's moved down. And look at this, dollar switches. In 1 minute, things just changed. We hit the 20 here on the Nasdaq. We had the Dow moving down pretty hard. And then the SPX now is starting to move down a little bit. So we're at the 34.29 level. Real market always, guys. Real market always. Never, ever, ever trust the futures. The futures are evil. Siddharth says, was up 30K morning after Easter, and I thought I was a genius. We all have that feeling, Siddharth. We get the genius action. Nasdaq crazy pump, says unexpected visit. Do we now see crazy dump? The trap of the morning retail. So now the Dow is moving down pretty hard. What's this led by? Let's have a quick look here. Check out this the Webull thing. By the way, from Americans, now I haven't really used Webull that much. I just quite like using it because it is a free tool in America. And I'm all about using free tools as much as possible on the channel. What do people think? Have you used Webull and like it? Or do you prefer Robinhood? Or do you prefer something else? I always get asked this question by American viewers. What's the best brokerage firm in America? And I can't really fully answer that question because I use different ones in Australia. But let us know in the comments section which ones you... Let us know from the chat what you use and if you like it or not. I think this isn't bad for a free one though. So HP, a few other things here. Where's our sales force? Is that gone now? That went too bullish probably because of the movements there on the Nasdaq. The Dow continues to be the weaker one. That's pushing the S&P down as well. Now 34.27. So beautiful sell there actually off the 20 on the Nasdaq. We use the NDX here. A few people ask me why I don't use QQQ more. Well, you can use whatever you want. That's fine. Let's use the NDX one. So we're still finding that level. If we go here to the 1 hour, you can see what's going on with the market. Notice how it's slightly different moving averages, and it's why the futures is not necessarily the best one to trade off. Different moving averages. TD Ameritrade, that's been around for quite a while, Jose, yeah, is what I'm using, and I'm American. Schwab is good, or Schwab, or however you say it. Yep, I've heard that one. I've got a few people that I've trained over the years that have used that tool. Webull has after hours, extended hours trading. It certainly does, Ras. I'm not sure how limited you are in America for these types of things. Well, Webull is pretty easy. My first and only trading platform. I'm the rookie here, says $7.77. Yeah, I think a lot of people have come in with Robinhood and Webull and stuff. I personally find that the tools are pretty good for free and for what they are, and they just pay for it. I like the old school style, but I'm old school myself. I like the kind of crappy Irish program we use here in Australia. I just enjoy seeing all the volume kind of lines. So first 15 minutes is now just concluded. And what have we seen? Nasdaq strength. So there's a bit of tech buying into the hope. Are we going to see buy the rumor, sell the fact? Well, I'm making a video about that later on this week. I feel like we've made a lot of buy the rumor, sell the news kind of events. We've got some weakness coming in from the perspective of what happened with Netflix, what happened with IBM, what happened with Sap, what maybe will happen with AMD as well. What if AMD miss? What if they don't live up to expectations? I'll be watching that one. Microsoft as well, we talked about that. All of these things, are we seeing buy the rumor? If you're starting to see them all stack up and missing expectations and selling off, be warned that Thursday could be incredibly volatile. VIX is now moving a little bit further up. I noticed that in the top corner there. Got a little bit bigger move here on VIX, and that is now at 29.5. Will today be the day it gets through the 30? What's the rumor, says Brian. So basically the rumor is that people expect optimism. So the market expects optimism because previously the stock has beat expectations. So it's like what we talked about before. If you go and have a look at the EPS earnings beat or the beats in general from Apple, there'll be an expectation. And if that expectation is not met, everyone buys like it's already happened. So they might buy 75% of the packed in price from that announcement. That's why you often see them move up into the announcement at all. If it's a truly surprising announcement, generally the stock will go crazy. So it'll be like here, and then it'll be like 20 or 30% above. Similar to what we saw with Zoom. But in most stock markets, most of the time, you just see like a 5 or 10% increase. And that's purely because it's already been moving up into the announcement. A few stock recommendations coming in here. A few people say TD is good and has mobile. Johnny Bravo says Robinhood sucks. When they close your options at 2 p.m. automatically. What? Well, that's terrible. If they do that, I would not like that. They close your options. What, every day? I don't even know about that. That is crap if they do that. Square. Yeah, we'll do Square, but we've got another request there. What was the one? I need to look at AMD. AMD doing well. Yeah, this is moving up. AMD has some reasons though. It's clearly the reason why AMD is going up is because Intel did poorly, which means that AMD is obviously getting more market share, especially in the laptop zone. They do have some big announcements as well. But yeah, this is a classic case of it is buying into the hype. We'll watch this one. It's a good one to bring up, Mabo. So we'll watch this throughout the week. I'll write this down, and I will come back to it when we do our analysis next week. So I'll write down AMD as one to definitely check out. It's a great, great case study for us. So we had a question here from a stock. Which one was I? Don't want to miss it again. I talked about XOM before, RAS, so you can definitely check that out. XLF. This is the financial sector, isn't it? Yeah, so, well, this one for me, it's finding the support overall, but for me, I'd just be looking for a breakout. I'd probably prefer trading the breakout here, trading than investing style. I'd be looking for a 25, what is that, 68, so I'd probably be looking at maybe a 25.70 close break high, and then I'd be trading it like that. So I'd be trading it, wait for the break high, get the swing, take it long into here. That would be my trade here for XLF. We did have a look at Barber. It's just basically looking at breaking the previous resistance highs. If it does, it will continue on. And continue, just look at the moving averages behind and follow it by the moving averages. That's the best way. If a lot of people say, oh, I trail stop and stuff and I do it by $2 or whatever, it's also worthwhile considering trailing things by moving averages overall. Buzzblad says Robinhood is only good for the Wall Street bets, guys. Yeah, they're wild, those Wall Street bets, guys. We did have a look at Sap. We basically just mentioned there, Fervo, that Sap was overall a huge move and it's going to take some time for it to properly recover. So we still got the Dow down, still got the Nasdaq up, if that is actually upgrading properly. Let's just put on the US 100 there quickly. Yep, so the Nasdaq is still up and the S&P 500 is down a bit. So it's really been tech stocks today that people are buying into. Amazon, quite nice. I'm getting a message here. Let's have a look at Amazon. Taking a look at that. So here's the monthly. A few people are starting to ask questions of me about whether we're seeing inside bars inside of the monthly candles. I don't really want to call anything like that until we do see the close overall for those markets. But inside bars are important, especially if there's gap downs, which there has been due to weekends. They are important kind of moves. We'll talk about what kind of candle that is next week if it happens. Remember, we're only a few days away now from the close. The close will be technically on Friday, and then we'll open a new week coming into the election. So Amazon coming off the 3,200 level started to buy up. Decent little bit of move there. Was beaten down stock. Double wick rejections, usually a pretty strong sign that it is going to try to move up here. 2 bullish bars or pin bars followed by bullish momentum. Makes sense for it to continue up. We usually see Amazon as well trade fairly strong into, and Barber's doing this as well, into the holiday season. It's a seasonal for that, and into Thanksgiving, and into, of course, Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales. So with Amazon, go line it up. Line up all of the times that it starts running. And let's have a look on the weekly there for Amazon. So here is July. Here is October. And then it runs hard for the rest of the year. Where is it? So October into December. We get the Christmas rush. Runs into Jan here. Let's have a look at the year before. So November was actually pretty weak here. Now this was a crappy year, I think, for it overall. What was that? 779. So it should have been a bit of a run. So it runs only Christmas rush there, not as good. This one ran into the December period and then fell off after earnings probably wasn't as good. I remember that because there was actually some really good buying in Amazon. But I do always encourage people to look at seasonals. I don't have time to go through it right now, but have a look at the seasonals, and you have to ignore this one here, because this was trade war dispute questions. So go check out Amazon and check out other discretionary stocks into that section, that kind of 2-month run-in. Tesla supposedly moving a little bit here in the market. People getting hyped on it again. So we're trading at 421, testing support as a resistance. We would expect to see selling pressure here. Probably leave this chart up and we'll come back after the funny season is over, being right now. So this is the 15-minute. We're now almost half an hour into the open, 1 a.m. I would always think that there is going to be selling pressure here from the market. We will watch this chart closely. I'll bring that over here. Still the markets, Nasdaq the outperformer, the rest weak. Dollar still finding weakness. Gold finding bullish momentum. Zen Side says, just made 4K off Tesla options. Let's go. Nice work there, Zen. I think the thing in the US that interests me is our market here for options in Australia is dying. It's terrible. I trade options a lot, and I can tell you I've never seen a worse options market than I've seen throughout this crisis. Basically, we have been completely destroyed by regulation. Regulation has wreaked havoc on the options market in Australia. In the American market, I think options are probably at all-time high. It's crazy. It's a complete parallel. It's because we have access to different types of leverage, but yeah, the Australian options market is dying. Have we checked Facebook? No, we haven't had a look at Facebook. We did quickly check it, but it was more from a perspective of don't listen to what you read on all of the newspapers. So Facebook had that nice break high of 270, 280 zone. It's then come through, retested it, and it's really in the middle of nowhere. I wouldn't buy or sell it here. If I was in it long, I'd just be holding it. That's the kind of thing you're looking at. 283, you're holding it. So it's above the peak. That's the importance. It's tested it from a structure standpoint, and then it's moved a little bit higher. So for me, there's nothing much going on Facebook. It looks okay. Zoom's up 5% now, Rash says. Yeah, big moves on Zoom, all of those types of things. Ray says, I have left to get my coffee for the day. You need a few more than one coffee, man. Just a quick reminder for everybody out there, if you've been enjoying the stream, definitely consider subscribing. And remember, election special financial day. We are going to be looking at all sorts of markets for quite a few hours. It's going to be a great event, so definitely join us there. $77 says, Tom and the crew, thank you for the 2-hour market opening party. No worries, Sandollar. As always, thank you very much for the support. What do we think of Visa and MasterCard? Yeah, I'm interested to know whether Visa can pull it out. So are these relics of the past? We've always known them as being the companies of the future, but in the crypto age, will they be able to hold up? It'll be very, very interesting to see what they do. So Visa's coming back down to the support zone it previously found support at, 194, looks like. 2050 cross, pretty notable 2050 cross. Haven't had a 2050 cross on the daily since over here in the crisis. We have now got a confirmed cross. That is bearish. Look, we're on the support, bearish. Things aren't looking so good for this stock. Cisco's always down, Jeremy. So yeah, unfortunately, Cisco is another one of those stocks that I am bullish on long term, probably, but not until I see the right zone. This would be a really good area where you've got support, and I would just set an alert. And this is what I do all the time. Because you can't look at every chart, yeah. So I just set an alert for here. And why would I do that? Because let's say it bounces off here and then does this for ages. If it does get through the 40.67, it's clearly making a new high, and that was support and was resistance previously. So this zone would effectively be a breakout, and I'd be interested in getting into it because these stocks move and fill the previous earnings gap closes quite a lot of the time. We saw it on Intel recently. It filled about 3/4 of the gap back to 45, and there'd be a great trade there. Antonio says, hi Tom, I had a question. As you know, Wall Street wants our money. Yeah, they do. And we have all been seeing a lot of buy the rumor, sell the fact. What if the announcement of stimulus once passed was the biggest trap? Yes. So that's a good point, Antonio. The stimulus probably will, I think it will continue the market up, especially because the market already has it placed in maybe 75%. But I think the stimulus will probably be bigger than you expect. The stimulus should be fairly large. So if it does come through, I still think it's going to be a positive for the market. But I do agree with you. There's been some serious buy the rumor, sell the facts, especially on Apple, Tesla, all sorts of things. I don't think so, though, Antonio. They're big plays. I mean, along with stimulus, you're going to see after that, whatever government gets in, start infrastructure building. That's going to put a lot of money into quite a few companies' hands. So we're now almost 1 minute away from what will be the next 15-minute close. What are we going to see on the markets? We're now almost 1 a.m. my time, 12:59:25, 15 minutes coming in. As we know, the funny thing about opens is that they always present a lot of fake opportunity, and it's the close that is the key in the markets. Always the close. Siddharth says, Tesla is too high in my opinion, Elon. Yeah, well, he did say that. Thanks for your analysis, Tom. No worries, Mark. Always appreciate it. J-Power CBDC will kill Visa and the banks. Yes, well, J-Power is certainly having his massive effect on those. Smart cities / infrastructure spending, says Jimmy. Yes, infrastructure spending. I was looking very heavily at infrastructure. Actually, what are rail stocks doing at the moment? I should look at rail stocks at some point. Next Tuesday, we'll be going through heaps of plays to do with the election. We're going through sector analysis. I really want to do a big key sector on growth over multiple years. I'll do a whole bunch of research for you guys as well. I think it's going to be a great event. Jeffrey says, Arjan stock still interesting, accumulating now. That was a joke from a little bit before. Instead of putting the stock in, I put Arjan's name in. VIX climbing to a 29.59. All right, let's have a quick look there at the VIX. Think we're going to probably see another little bit of a fake kind of morning here. Again, it's on earnings. We're at 29.50 here on the CBOE VIX. We'll be looking at put call ratios. We'll make a video tomorrow after today's close. talk about all of that. What about Adobe? Yeah, we'll have a look at Adobe. Adobe, another massive company that's done very well out of this crisis period. Pretty much with Adobe, my thoughts come back to the 20. It's due it. They do like to do it. Mentioned this last time. But from the smaller time frames, I guess the 50, if it doesn't hold this 50 and it breaks to a new low, I'd be just lining this up, 480. If it gets under the 480, 479 bracket, then it probably continues down to like a 460. And is that going to line up with a 20? So 460 weekly would line up with a 20. It's probably my thought. I think this is possible. Again, I think it's possible even in a relative bullish market. Not a strong bullish market, but just a market that declines a little bit. Deutsch or Deutscher or whatever you want to call it, Antonio. Yeah, that bank, he says, the bank has $47 trillion in exposure. Is that true? High risk derivatives mentioned in their annual report. Oh man, that bank, do they want to make any more mistakes? That bank is terrifying. Look at it. Look at this. When things go wrong. Feeling all great, GFC, the dead cat big bounce, and then just the decline of the bank. Saved by the government, the only reason it's really alive. DocuSign is certainly doing very, very well. So I was reading an article about this versus Slack, and obviously they're going into Slack's territory. Very, very crazy move this day, wasn't it? If that's true data. Great buying of DocuSign off this support. Probably next buy will be 200 when it comes down, touches the weekly 20. Never discount weekly 20s in the stock market. Heavily used moving average. I use them a lot, but I use them for a reason. Okay, guys. Well, I think we're probably going to wrap it up there. We'll have a quick summary of the markets overall. We're seeing that kind of big move in the tech. Relative weakness across the rest of it. Gold's had a nice breakout. Dollar overall doing nothing much. But I do want to thank everybody, each and every one of you, for coming out for another Monday Open. We usually do 2 hours every single Monday or Tuesday if there's a public holiday in the US. And I've really appreciated doing it. It's been a great amount of fun. I've always wanted to do a bit of live streaming, and I'll always strive to make these streams bigger, better than before. Remember, next week, US election. We'll do the Monday, but we'll also have the special event. And it's going to be heaps of fun, I think. So thank you very much. We will see you next Monday or in tomorrow's video. And I do need to answer one other question. Someone asked me, why do I use 20, 50, 200? Okay, easiest answer to that. 20 exponential moving average. Think about it logically. 1 month, about 20 trade days. That's why we use the 20. 50, there's just because it works and it's used heavily. 200, similar kind of thesis. 200, block it out into how many months. So 20 moving average works so well because it makes some form of sense. And it's also used in half of the, if you actually go and look at a whole bunch of indicators, 20 is often the base of many indicators out there. All right, we'll see you next time. I'll leave you with the music and peace out. See everybody.